Okay, let's try a different fun project. I want to see if we can take this poor dilapidated dashboard and make it look less bad. Okay, first step is the very involved and complicated removal. And then we're going to take it to my favorite workbench. Yes, that's right, the tailgate. Man, this thing is in really bad shape. Man, that vinyl is all crunchy hard. I just want to play around here, and who knows? This thing's either going to look fantastic, so-so, or it'll be an epic fail. But I'm going to cut this section out here, and then all these little sections here, and try to inlay. I went to the junkyard and found a dashboard out of, I don't know, might have been a Lincoln or Crown Vic or something like that, but it was a just happened to be one of the only things in there that still had good foam in it, because most of your later year cars, all this, they converted to a hard dashboard, because then they started putting airbags and everything. So the idea is to inlay some of this foam here, so I have a similar material to what's in there, so it expands and contracts at the same rate. Otherwise, when we cover it with vinyl, I'm going to cut some of these sections out here. We're going to lay the foam rubber in here, fiberglass this in under here, and the thing has got a lot of flex to it, and I kind of need to eliminate that. So I'm going to need to really fiberglass this real good under here. I might even try to expanding foam in there. It's just going to give it another place. It's going to flex, and I kind of want to avoid that. But let's see what happens. This stuff is all just hard and crumbles and cracks. So I'm just going to peel all of this off. I cut that section out. I was going to originally cut it out to here, but you got this nice hard shell under here, so I'm going to lay that fiberglass in there with the foam cut in there, and have fiberglass bridge, and that will bridge these two sides together. And then I'm getting all of this off, and I'll scuff that so the fiberglass will adhere to that. So that's the plan. We'll see what happens. So this stuff now, it just kind of cracks like an eggshell. So instead of trying to flake off big sections, I might just crack it and then just peel it off. Peeling the world's largest hard-boiled egg. Okay, well, seems to work pretty good, this butter knife. So if your once soft and supple vinyl is turned into an eggshell, a nice rounded butter knife seems to work to pull it off. So that works great. So that's what I'm gonna get this all off, and then we'll have to see if this adheres to this without eating into it. Okay, well, getting this off, this is just a few minutes with the butter knife. It is digging in a few places, but that might be unavoidable no matter what. This one's fairly thin. I have maybe a thinner knife, but just worked it nice and slow and easy in the slopes and the curves and the grooves. It's better to kind of break it up and then let the knife fleck the little pieces off, so you're not trying to run the knife into the curves. Just one other word of caution and advice is, where you see how those little pieces fleck off and fly. So if you don't wear glasses, you know, like I do, make sure and put on some safety glasses or goggles, because I've had a bunch of these little pieces come hit me in the face, and well, we all know what happens. So yeah, see how a bunch of that stuff will just fly up. You do not want that, gets in your eye, man. It's not going to be good. Okay, making some good progress here. Finally got all of the cracked old vinyl off of the dash pad, and you see I've cut a few of these down all the way to the fiberglass shell, and I really need to do that with the rest of them. But first, I need to get this fiberglass in from underneath. So I've cut, this is foam that came out of another old junk car that was down in the junkyard. It was hard to find another one that still had a padded dash, but this is pieces of foam out of like a Crown Vic or something off of its dash pad. So got those cut to fit. I've got my test patches going on here with the let me go around to the other side. So I've got my test patches going on with this contact cement, just to make sure it doesn't eat the you know, I was real concerned that it doesn't eat the foam. And these are various materials. This one is like 87% cotton, and these are some polyester cotton blends. Here's this, that's this section right up here, that style foam there. And then this is good old-fashioned great stuff here, that I'm going to attempt to fill these gaps with that and then cut it down and see how that works. Generally, when you let great stuff just kind of go out into the open, it doesn't get as dense. It gets a lot of air bubbles in it, but we'll see how that works once I cut all these other cracks out. And then I'm going to use one of these paddings. I like this. It's got foam on one side and kind of a cloth on foam on one side and kind of a cloth on the other. So I need to, again, make sure it doesn't melt and make sure that the contact cement does, you know, do its thing on both sides, and it seems to do that. And I even put it, well, it's gonna, let's see, move the light, and I put it on here too. You know, it obviously got to make sure that the foam on the dash pad itself doesn't melt. So all of that looks good. Let me flip this over and show you what I'm going to do underneath. All right, so good news is the contact cement does not appear to be eating into anything, even the great stuff, and that was a concern I had. It was just, that'd be bad if it dissolved it and the foam for the dash pad itself. It all seems to be stable, but you absolutely have to wear the respirator and have a fan blowing. This stuff is brutal. So, yeah, definitely PPE when it comes to that. So, here's the section from underneath, and here's our shell from the original dashboard, which I imagine is either some sort of plastic or fiberglass. I guess it's a plastic. This pushed out and flush with the top of the existing pad, and then I'm going to fiberglass this section here, and that'll give it some rigidity. It's really weak right in here, and the thing wants to flex and bend. So anyhow, that will be next once I get it cleaned up. Now, it's not anything because of the smell, and I'll have to wear a respirator. I can't talk through doing that. So you know, here's what it looks like before. You've seen what I'm going to do, and we'll take a look after it's done. Okay, all in all, it turned out pretty good, but the resin I had, even though it was fairly new, I mean, a month old or so, and I didn't start this till late at night. When I opened up the can of resin, you could tell it had turned, and this took all night to harden up. So and it also had, I don't know whether it was forming a vacuum as it cured and sucking the foam in, but you can see the circle here. I put wax paper and some weight on it to press it back down, but you can see it turned out pretty good. I'll shave that little high spot off, but so there's that. I'll give it a couple angles. So, you know, I'm fairly pleased with that. I'm gonna scuff this and put some new, another layer of fiberglass cloth and some new resin on this, and then we'll be ready to move forward, cleaning out all of these cracks and filling them with foam, and you know, put our underlayment on there, and then our vinyl. So it's coming along. Okay, got all these gaps all cleaned out. From these were deep cracks. You know, they were like this, but all the way through. These are just a little bit on the surface. So got all of these, and there's a hole down there. So, going to put on these gloves, because if you've ever worked with this stuff, you know what happens, and if you've never worked with this stuff, you will know what happens, and it's about impossible to clean up, but lacquer thinner does help take it off. So we mount the camera, and we're going to spray this great stuff in here and put this out in the sun so it'll make it kick a little quicker, and then shave it back down. And then I'm putting a foam backed padding on here. It's cloth on one side and foam backed on the other, very thin, 1/16 of an inch or so. So that'll go over it, kind of hide any imperfections, and then the vinyl with the contact cement will go on top of that. All right, let's see what happens here. I apologize for the noise in the background. There's some work going on the house next door. Nothing I can do about it. Let's fill this one here, might show up a little better. So you get the idea. I'm going to fill all of these, and then after it expands all the way, go ahead and shave it down with a sharp razor knife. So I'm going to turn this off for now, and next shot you'll see it all filled. So here's what this foam expanded to. And I'm going to try and cut it this way a few times. Let's see what happens here. I even got this to try and see how that does. Just a thin piece of flashing. So let's see what happens here. So yeah, that's looking pretty good, and I'm gonna put that, like, I was concerned about some of these, you know, that it would have air bubbles in it. So this is what it looks like close up. So let's see. You know, there are some little air bubbles in there. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the rest of this off, and you get the idea. All right, well, here is some simulated drone footage of the dash pad after trimming the expanding foam. And you know, it has air holes in it like I had expected, but all in all, my crazy scheme seems to have worked so far. So here's the padding I'm going to put down first. You see it has thin, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch, eighth maybe, of foam on one side, and then this texture fabric on the other. And like I said, I've tested it with the contact cement, and it doesn't seem to be affected by it. So this will go on next. Get a cross-sectional view here, so you see you've got a little bit of foam under there, and then our vinyl. I think that's gonna take up, you know, all these imperfections here, you know, that I was worried about that would show when the vinyl got glued down, won't show through that. I've marked the area that I'm going to glue first. I'm going to glue here, so I'm going to put glue on this section, and then I've marked it on the foam, the area that I want to glue. So what I want to do, glue it here and here, and then I'm going to not put any glue right there right now, just the way I can roll that in, and then it's going to have to be glued and kind of pulled and worked down and around these corners. So that is the method to my madness. So we're going to put it on both sides here, both surfaces. So here goes nothing. Let's hope all my tests were accurate. Or I put this stuff on and it didn't melt the foam. So and also by working outside, I can do this and talk and not have to wear a respirator. I'll put it on this as well. And then it needs to sit like 15-20 minutes. So I'm going to do that, and we'll come back and I'll attempt to get this on and get it placed exactly where it needs to be, because once that stuff grabs, it grabs, and you're not sliding this stuff around. So see how that goes. Okay, the bad news is the expanding foam, when you glop on the contact cement, does eat into it, and that's something I was worried about, and that's why I ran tests. But it was on some, like, this is only cured a day, where the stuff I tested it on had, I mean, it was just a piece of cut off from somewhere that I had used it, and it sat for like a month or more. Because the other thing I was going to do was, like I did here and stuck in this, I was going to cut little strips and fill it in, and I was like, man, this is tedious enough as it is. So maybe in these hard cracks in the foam, just a body filler that you ease on in there will work, so you don't have to deal with too much sanding, because then that's going to affect, you know, the rubber along the sides. So anyhow, yeah, it's probably going to show, but well, it's not like it's a show truck, so I'm not all that worried. But I was just trying a little experiment and show folks out there some alternative ways of doing that. Okay, let's see what we got here. Now what I had to do, because I realized I was going to have to put this on from the top. When I made my little pattern, it was with everything upside down, and well, you need to see where everything's going. It has to come down this way. So I cut this, and I had some things to help me line up, like where the vent is, and I cut my 3 slots for the defroster. And so what I'm going to do now is take this trusty tool that was my grandparents when they worked for Uniroyal in Naugatuck, Connecticut. And this was, they made Ked sneakers, and this was to roll the seams on the around the good old-fashioned Ked sneakers. And if you look, this is from the 1940s. Look at that. Look at how that spins. There's no oil in there. Yeah, that tool's like 80 years old. If you want to work from the center out. So you can see I've got it outlined here, and so tomorrow I'll have to, so this, since it's an underlayment, I'll probably, I'll cut all this excess off. I just want to leave it on for now, just, in case I need to pull it one way or the other and didn't want to end up short. But I will probably have to cut it like in here. This I'm going to cut, and I already am short that way, so whatever I cut off is going to go over there. Okay, got the dash pad all covered with this foam and cloth little underlayment intermediate layer. So these are the areas where when I go to put the vinyl on, I'm anticipating a lot of trouble. Going to try to stretch and heat it with the, or heat and stretch it with the heat gun. Got my vinyl laid out here with the bottom side up. I went ahead and cut some slots because it's kind of the same thing I did when I was putting this pad on, and it was really helpful to help me locate and, give me some sort of reference mark. So I want to glue down inside these lines here, which kind of is going to be from here down and down. So if I can get that in place and get that tacked down into it here, then I can start stretching and working it around these corners and these grooves, and it'll take a little bit of that down into here too. So that's why I'm stopping like in this area here in reference to the vinyl, so I have room then to move and pull it. Okay, well, truth be told, this is really hard to do. It took a long time. I've probably spent 15-20 minutes just kind of massaging and working this area in, basically. And I can see there is a little place where it didn't adhere, and I'm just gonna have to live with that. This heat gun here, I had it set maybe somewhere in around there, 3.5-ish, 4, and I varied between 2 and 3, and then anyhow, wearing the gloves, just kind of, remember I'd pre-glued around here and then was using these gloves to protect my hand, and then press on this as you keep kind of moving this around, and it is not easy, but this will all pull out and stretch down. So I'm going to do that next, glue little sections, pull them down, and then we'll move over to here and see if maybe I can video a little bit of this. This one doesn't seem like it's going to be quite as bad as this one here. And then just kind of gluing and pulling the rest of it. All in all, though, I'd say for a first time and trying out something not only I've never done before, but now I've actually gone back and looked at some of the other videos. Truth be told, when I started into this, I didn't look at anybody else's videos. I wanted to just kind of figure this out on my own. So all in all, I'm relatively pleased with it. I didn't expect to be perfect, but you know what? It's all right. What I'm doing here is, you can see I've stuck a little dog or cat little mini tennis ball up in there, and I did have another little hard ball and some other things here. So I'm having to scooch some adhesive up in there, and then need it to have air on it so it'll dry. So that's just helping me have a something with a soft edge to push up on it that's not gonna push and leave an imprint from the back, like if I were to use paint sticks or something like that. So anyhow, just letting that tack up, and yeah, I'm gonna give it just a little bit more on this down here. This is reactivating some of the glue underneath it, so give that a second. And then this is very already kind of stretched into place, so I don't need to really use any heat in here since I've already used it in there, and I can just pull it down and adhere and work it down that way. All right, got my little doggy tennis ball pulled out that was holding in there, and this has been tacking up a good long bit, so let's just kind of see what happens here. And let's see, how far does that glue go out? Okay, up to there. Type of smoother cloth. So then you pull this thing upside down. One little wrinkle in there, and I might have to live with it. Alright, so in this little curve here, I'm gonna have to grab some heat. Okay, starting to take shape and look like a nice dash pad. This right here, it's an oops on my part, and it was preventable, but honestly, a project like this is one where you need somebody on standby. You kind of need three hands. All that happened there is, I had glue on the back of that section, and it got, it got stuck together, and it had a good long time to get super tacky. And while I was working on other stuff, and it already had kind of loosely pulled it around this corner, these two guys touched each other, and it's okay. This is a first attempt at doing this, and I'd say it's doing all right for what it is. So this was the most critical part. I do see maybe a little bit of heat damage in there, and it might just be from stretching the grain. So this has to be glued down. I'm going to work on this section over here, and I've cut out some of my extra because it was really getting in the way. I just figured out, kind of what I need for me to get a grip and stretch and pull. And so I'm going to heat this area right here. I'm not going to get any glue up in there right now. I'm just going to heat and stretch, and what's going to make it kind of hard is there's this really hard bend right here, and so I'm going to have to be really careful with the heat, because even with this extra padding on there, that hard turn right there is going to want to poke it through. So I might have to just stretch this little area and maybe try to get it glued and then work on this. it's going to be tricky, but all in all, I'm really pleased. And once this other very tricky area is done and out of the way, the rest is pretty much just, smooth sailing of putting some, folding this back, having it open so glue can get in there, and then glue it and pull it down, and that should be it. And then just the ends might be a little a little tricky, but all in all, I'd say it's coming along pretty good. That one little lift in there, oh well. All right, let's see how this goes. I've heated and preheated and glued, and so now I am ready for stretching and sticking it in. I'm gonna try to avoid any more heat, but it looks like I might need to do it right there. It's getting little pockets, so let me see what I can do there. See why that's happening. This turned out reasonably well. There is one little, it just kind of keeps popping up, and there's a little lift area right there. And again, that could be that foam underneath lifting as well. So this was just an experiment with that foam padding underneath, and so far it's turned out reasonably well. When you look at this as a whole, especially when you think about how this started, I'd say it looks pretty good. And just try some things different on your own. I know a lot of folks like to, I've seen them now, I've gone back and watched some videos, like I said, I wanted to do this without watching any others so I wouldn't be biased and just try something. A lot of folks are putting Bondo over the crack foam, or just filling the cracks in with Bondo, and leaving the busted up brittle vinyl on there, and gluing this to it. And I don't know, it's like you're building on top of saltine crackers. I don't see where that's a good idea. And if it's lifted and pulled up, I think what all's underneath there is going to continue to do that, and of course definitely crumble. You're not going to stop that, and then this is just going to, all that's going to push up through. So I don't know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I don't know what those type of recovers do like over time, and certainly don't know what this one will look like over time. But hey, for $50, a lot of time, it's looking okay. All right, here we go. Semi sort of installed, and you know what? Does not look bad for a first time, first try, and it's okay for what it is. It's just kind of laying in there for right now, and the reason I have these spaces here is, remember when if you watched my video when I put in the stereo, which I might link right up here, I did not want to damage this original panel, so I have saved it, but it would fill these spaces here. So you know what, let's go ahead and cap this off. Here is my little hula girl, which is in need of restoration herself. I got this at the John Glenn shuttle launch in 1998 in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So her original skirt is deteriorated. I just hot glued some stuff in there real quick, but anyhow, she's back in her rightful place. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on kind of an alternative method on how to cover an old cracked dashboard with vinyl. So if you did, grab your vinyl and heat gun and stretch that over your like button. Please subscribe, comment, and share, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.